So education is a key area where we can break the cycle, the intergenerational cycle of hunger. Our focus is on nutritious food. Good nutrition, as we've discussed in the previous unit, it's essential for sustaining life. Minimum of 2,100 calories per person per day. The kinds of programs that we and many of our partners have developed over the years are what are called school feeding programs or nutrition for education. And food aid is provided at the school to the children. And a key issue to remember here is that it's not just the 2,100 calories, of course, that we're focused on, that the child would consume. It's what's in the calories. It's the fortified biscuits that we provide with the micronutrients that are critical. In countries in Africa, for example, often we have to provide the food directly to the school in different components. The cereals and the oil and such will be provided directly at the school, and a voluntary committee of mothers and school committee will prepare the food. In many Asian countries where we have a more developed food processing industry, the high energy biscuits, as we call them, or micronutrient fortified biscuits, will be prepared, given to us by the industry, and we will provide for the sole market of those biscuits at the beginning. We provide this assistance then to government and also to NGO schools or non-governmental schools. There's an advocacy focus of this, and that we are trying to build awareness and understanding with the parents and the general community about the importance of education, the importance of nutrition early on for their children. So community buy-in, community involvement in these programs is absolutely critical to their long-term viability and their sustainability. And then also, I've been talking we the whole time. This, of course, is not only the UN World Food Program, but it's also many of our partners where we work together and as a way of complementing our various mandates. And in the case of UNICEF in particular, they help us tremendously with curriculum development, teacher training, and many of our NGO partners help us with food delivery and monitoring. So a key objective is simply to increase enrollment and attendance. And they're not the same, of course. You can enroll in school, but you also have to attend. And what happens in many countries, in situations where a student may enroll, but there are many barriers as to why he or she may not actually attend. So you've got to look at both enrollment coupled with attendance. There has to be good, decent attendance. Otherwise, the enrollment doesn't really matter. And we find that food provides an attraction both for parents and children to come to school. It's not just the education per se. And in many areas where the education is very minimal to begin with, if the situation that the children and the families are living with in these communities are so food insecure, then the food will be one of the top reasons why they will send their children to school. And we know, of course, that in these situations and in the first year of a program where food is then provided to school through a school lunch program, the enrollment does increase, attendance increases, absenteeism rates drop, and the dropouts rate decrease overall. This is a drawing from a school in Cambodia, from one of our school feeding programs. We asked the children to use their artistic talents to sort of draw us an example of what they would consider to be a child-friendly school. And this list on the left are the key areas that they identified as being part of that child-friendly school. Safe, nutritious food. Now, in this case, this is a school where the food is provided directly to the school, and it is prepared, cooked, and prepared and served by a school committee, usually made up of mothers, in that lower right-hand corner. Clean water has to be provided. This is not always an obvious issue, in that in many countries they may not have safe water supply, and clearly you need to have good clean water mixed in with the food to assure that it has its maximum impact for the good nutrition of the children. Proper sanitation, again, a very key area. We find in particular having separate boys and girls bathrooms, restrooms, is very critical to keeping the girls in school in particular. But in many, many areas, sanitation is a major concern, and there is no regular restroom or anything anywhere near the school. School gardens is another one where the food provided, of course, is good, solid, nutritious food, but oftentimes as the school becomes better involved in the program and more committed to the objectives, they will try to diversify the various foods that will be provided, and maybe some fresh vegetables. Hopefully in the curriculum they're also learning about nutrition and the importance of a varied diet, and there'll be a lot of interest in starting a school garden. And then just simply keeping the school environment clean. This is something that the students take responsibility for. These are situations in countries where you don't have janitors, you don't have custodians and such like you do in the first world, and that students themselves are responsible to keep the environment clean. And by developing that sense of pride and ownership in the school, it helps tremendously to incentivize the students and make them feel proud to be a student at that school. So there's an essential package. For all these kinds of programs, you need to have a few basic ingredients to make sure that they work. Not just the food, not just the water. You got to have them all together, and they have to be working. The first thing as well is the quality of education. I know for years in the field, as I was managing school feeding programs for the World Food Program, this is one thing, frankly, I would lose sleep over at night, was all the incentives that we were providing to get the children to school, the school committees providing the food, and the food was making sure that they were able to pay attention in the classroom. But what were they learning? What was happening in the school? You're talking about countries where they may have very few qualified teachers, textbooks, paper, pens, anything to even write with, desks, they're sitting on the floor oftentimes. It's the quality of education aspect that oftentimes is lacking. So we have tried the incentive, but then what happens at the school? And this is an area where UNICEF, one of our key partners, the UN Children's Fund, is very, very helpful and very instrumental in providing teacher training, curriculum development in schools, working with the ministries of education in countries to assure that we have good quality of education in the same schools where we provide the food aid as incentive. So clean drinking water I've mentioned, that's critical. UNICEF often helps with that as well. The sanitary latrines. The micronutrient supplementation that I've mentioned, this is a key aspect of the whole program. It's not just the calories. The 2,100 calories is important. But at the end of the day, it's also important that those key micronutrients and vitamins are given to those students at this critical time of their life. Deworming is another key aspect. I mentioned in the previous unit that oftentimes there is chronic worm epidemics in many of these areas. In Nepal, for example, every single child in the entire country, guaranteed, has worms. That's simply known. And what we would do there is through all of these school feeding programs, since we had the children in the school on a regular 6-monthly basis, deworming pills would be provided, again, often by the World Health Organization, WHO, or UNICEF, again, partners of ours, to deworm the children. Otherwise, you're simply feeding the worms through all these food aid school lunch programs. Also, another focus we would have is AIDS, HIV education. Again, this is simply awareness about how AIDS is transmitted, how certain behavior can be highly risky. It's simply information, awareness for children to understand how it works. And then finally, the improved infrastructure. You've got to assure that happens. Good water collection, the fuel-efficient stoves oftentimes. You're living in areas where the firewood is not abundant. And we also introduced then fuel-efficient stoves to the cooking program that the school committees have, and helping them build kitchens and then manage them.